Time for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold. Sam McDowell, Jeff Chadiha, Soren Petro with you as we talk about rookie minicamp. Who stood out? What undrafted free agents can help this team? What is the best role for Emmett Johnson? Can the Chiefs keep 3 quarterbacks on this roster? What did Andy Reid mean when he was talking about Patrick Mahomes possibly participating in the OTAs? Some stuff maybe taken a little bit out of context with that one. We'll discuss that. How about what kind of difference the new coaching staff can make for this team? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Tuesday. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody out there who's catching us live. Here, remember, we're live Tuesday nights, 9:30 p.m., Friday mornings at 10 a.m. If you want to be a part of the conversation, be in the chat room. I got a lot of people lined up. Got some questions. We'll get to as many of them as we can. We're talking about minicamp, Chiefs rookie minicamp. Sam, you were there. You were watching the practice. All 100-plus players practicing in this Chiefs mini camp. Let's start there. Who stood out? What were some of the takeaways you had?
Let's just go one by one. Let's go all 104 players here. Look, I mean, your eyes are on the 7 draft picks, right? And just to give people a perception of what this is, it's a passing camp. I mean, there's maybe 5 run plays called in the 2 practices that were open to media. There's a 3rd practice on Sunday that's not. And so I'll go through what stood out to me, which was Cyrus Allen, I thought was the most impressive rookie out there. And I don't mean that in terms of he's going to be the most impactful rookie. I think it's based on maybe the bar standard I had for each of these players, but super quick off the line of scrimmage. Like, his release is impressive. And that's a trait that when the Chiefs faced man-to-man a year ago, they struggled with getting off the line against some of the teams that wanted to play physical with them. And so I saw more of a value for him than I did maybe before the weekend, with the caveat that this guy's been an NFL player for a week, and it's a non-contact camp. And so, like, whether or not he fights through contact is different than, I will say, he's able to juke some guys. I think that this stood out to me. He high pointed. This gets into the complexity of these camps. He had one of the best catches I saw at camp, where he high points a ball, even though he's short statured. Seems great, but I'll also add that the guy he high pointed it over was Mansour Delane. So, I mean, look, as much as you want to glean from these camps is what you will. And I thought he was the guy that stood out to me.
There it is, Jeff. I don't know what you're hearing. I'm hearing wide receiver 1, Cyrus Allen.
Yeah.
Fantasy nerds, get ready. Make your moves. If you're
at rookie minicamp, he is wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
I mean, how much takeaway do you think there is from these camps? I mean, I think that continues the theme of what the coaching staff said they saw, or what the scouting department said they saw in Cyrus Allen. That's for sure. So that's at least nice to see. How much can we take away from that?
You're talking about me?
Yeah.
I'll have Jeff answer even less than me, but I do
exactly.
want to say very little.
Yeah, I would say even less than what Sam just said. I mean, look, these camps are geared to the skill players. I mean, I wasn't out there watching it, so yeah, I would have loved to hear him say Mansour Delane looks super fluid and coverage, and Emmett Johnson is probably faster than we thought he was, and there's time to figure all that stuff out. But it is an opportunity. This is more of an opportunity for guys who are trying to make this team, trying to make the roster to be in training camp. The guys we don't know about. It's more for them to try to show what they're about, what they can do, and they are long shots. We all know that the guys who are drafted are going to be on this team and have great opportunities to make plays. But ultimately, I mean, I don't expect guys, the stars, the big name guys, to come out there and do tremendous things in day one or the first weekend. I think once the veterans show up and you see them against those guys, you have more perspective on what all these guys are going to be about.
But I do like that. I think Sam did go to something that, like, when I'd never seen, I couldn't remember Cyrus Allen playing. I mean, I've seen Cincinnati play, but he didn't jump out at me during those Bearcat games. But after the Chiefs took him, and you Google up the highlight videos, I mean, what Sam said is some of the things that does kind of jump off at you. He does seem to be a guy that can avoid contact at the line and get off and get the release. And so the fact that he was doing it, shows that explosion is there. What about at the podium? I mean, confidence level, attitude, anybody impress you? As far as, who was talking over the weekend, it was just the draft picks basically. But anyone you go, okay, now we got a chance to see him in person talking to us as opposed to a Zoom where the phone's falling over all the time. Peter Woods, what jumped at you for as far as the guys talking to the media?
Yeah, I actually thought for us, it was a great group. And you're right, Soren. I mean, like, the Zoom is a different environment than hearing these guys. But, the Chiefs will beat this out of them. But Peter Woods leaving the room saying, "Can't wait to talk to you guys again." You can stay if you want. We've got some more for you. Yeah, I mean, I thought Cyrus Allen had a great personality. Emmett Johnson doesn't surprise people that he's got a good personality. I thought R. Mason Thomas, I had asked him about if he works on how quick he gets off the line of scrimmage. And he said basically that he ran track in high school just to work on, his get off. Said he wasn't fast enough to win anything at the high school level, but he wanted to work on that. So look, I mean, this is an easy time for them to be answering questions in the grand scheme of things, though. Last year's rookie class was thrown into a 6-11 season in which it becomes pretty easy to hide during that. So I don't know that there's conclusions that can be made, but for now they seem like a group that is pretty confident with itself.
104 players, I think, was the final count. It seemed to be growing even at the final moments for what the Chiefs were putting out there. Last year, I will point out, Jeff, just that they were able to locate Cooper McDonald as an invitee. We were talking today on the radio show about this, Sam. You mentioned Tershawn Wharton was a guy that they found in this. What do you think of that quantity of players? Are we getting anything done really with the guys that are going to be on the roster? Is it worth it, to be bringing that many people in and dividing up the coaching time? That's, have that many players, it's that many less reps for the frontline guys, but cast a wide net, find some guys. They did sign 3 different guys out of the invitees, the rookie tryouts. 3 of them are going to come back and go into the minicamp. So what's it worth having 104 guys?
Well, I think, first of all, I think this is maybe just a byproduct of just once they went to larger practice squads. I think there was always probably more opportunities to look at people like this. I think these kinds of camps are more for people like Dave Tobe to maybe catch a guy who might fit in. You're looking for guys who are going to play special teams for you, right? Very few guys in these positions are going to come in here and earn jobs and be starters week 1 or, second year. So you're looking at guys who have the traits, who have the athletically, the mentality, the personality, who can fit in. I think that's important. And look, the Chiefs, we talked about this before. It's not like it was 3-4 years ago where they have all these spots lined up and all these guys who are coming back. There's a lot of young people in that locker room. And so I think they probably are thinking about who are some of the guys who can fit into our culture and help us move forward if they're going to be a part of this team. because it's different when you're joining a team that's won a championship or a couple championships or been to 3 in a row. It's a whole different game when you're showing up and the team's been 6-11 and a lot of big name guys have left. And so that to me is more interesting about this group coming in is like both the draft picks and the undrafted guys is who are the guys who are really going to be leaders and be guys who are going to be culture setters because they need more of those guys in the locker room.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. 104 guys, Sam, the value of that. I mean, leave no stone unturned. Is it that simple, or they waste time on the guys that they really want to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year they had 91. So this is always a large turnout for this camp, but I think there's a lot of people that look at the Chiefs roster, maybe more so than in years past, and feel like they've got a shot. That there might be some real paths for them to make a team as a UDFA. So, look, I mean, I think when you look across the league, the rest of the league probably thinks that the Chiefs are up there with their UDFA class and the guys they sign. I mean, there's some guys they signed that I think were sought after by several teams, and I think that's one of the reasons why is I think when you look at a safety, for example, I mean, they kept Esapole last year too. It took them a while, but they eventually had the UDFA on their team. Like, I don't know who it's going to be, but I do think, and this gets into, I know another item on our list, Soren, a UDFA I think will make this team.
Well, that like who did you know what the name that I think we can all get ready for to be the camp darling for everyone to get excited about is going to be I always want to Jeff Caldwell. For some reason I always want to make him the traveling secretary for the Royals, Jeff Davenport. But Jeff Caldwell, the 6'5", 4'3" wide receiver from Cincinnati, that's the guy that is going to assume the role of Jesse Haynes and
Justin Ross
and
Jody Fortson and
Bobby Scipio. I mean, this will be, I think, the camp. Hi, did you see anything from him? Because I mean, listen, the traits are there.
Very telling that Sam didn't bring his name up.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first play of 7-on-7s went his way, and he dropped it. The first series of 11-on-11s, he had a pass on his way and he dropped it. And so the athleticism's there. He didn't strike me as a super twitchy athlete, like somebody who, what I just mentioned with Cyrus Allen, there's no comparison with those guys whenever they were doing the off the line of scrimmage drill. I don't know that I'm going to be projecting Jeff Caldwell going into camp as a guy that I think has an inside path to a roster spot.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because he sounds a lot like Marquez Valdez-Scantling to me, the way you're describing him. Drops.
I actually think that, first of all, I think there's value in having somebody that can run deep routes. And as
that's the qualifier. Here comes the point.
Yeah. Why is Tyquan Thornton on your roster if you need that guy?
Right. I mean, it could be as simple as somebody goes down. This is the next guy up, so we have that skill trait in case Tyquan Thornton would get lost in training camp or something like that. I think there are a number of guys that are possibilities. At least, let's at least mention the local kid, John Michael Gillenberg, Wyoming, out of Rockhurst High School. Anything of note?
His story was great. I mean, he actually only played 3 high school games in his life. He didn't start playing football until his senior year. And Kelly Donahoe, who used to be Blue Springs High, and then was which actually I just now thought of, Xavier Lloyd might have from Blue Springs, who they signed.
Yep.
Also probably would have played for Kelly Donahoe when he's still at Blue Springs, but moved over to Rockhurst and convinced him to play. And he played 3 games and then got hurt. And Wyoming still offered him. He only had 3 games of tape. So he definitely has the body for it. Now, for a tight end, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he does have some speed for that position. So I think he'll definitely be a guy who's at training camp.
And they signed 3 players from the unsigns. Anything you know?
Xavier Lloyd, I think probably, if you were keeping stats, probably caught the most passes of anyone. And they signed him out of Mizzou, although Soren, you and I mentioned this, caught 2 passes at Mizzou last year.
I will quote Stephen St. John, who pointed out a number of different receivers and different people from Mizzou that were around. He said, it sounds like Mizzou might have a quarterback problem, was how he put it. If NFL, talent people see talent in these receivers and they didn't produce at Missouri, it sounds like maybe the quarterback was an issue or the offensive coordinator, which I thought was the way he did it was very, very funny, as Stephen is
I think
good at doing.
I think the most notable thing of those three guys was the Indiana tackle who got picked up, Benson, because I think I saw him rotating a little bit at guard too. So I think he's a 6'6" guy. And so
I think 6'7". I thought I saw 6'7", 321, ran a sub 5 140 with 34+ inch arms. I'm like, what was not to like about this guy playing for a national championship team that he didn't even get, he wasn't even a UDFA.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I have no idea, but I was going to say that I don't think that they go through the motions with this process. I do think there's a lot of value, especially when you're a team that has spent a lot of money on your roster and has a very highly paid quarterback. I had a GM tell me this one time. It's just like, this is when you have a big name quarterback, basically you've got 3 or 4 positions on your team that you can pay a lot of money to. And then you have to hit on your second day, third day draft guys, and the undrafted free agent guys become like gold. And Pittsburgh Steelers were really good at this back when Ben Roethlisberger was there, and obviously found James Harrison and Ryan Clark and people like that. You're not gonna bat 1,000 doing this, but teams in the Chiefs positions are definitely looking for cheap depth options, and this is where you find it in these kind of rookie camps.
Nate Buchanan told a story about talking with Andy Reid about UDFAs, and he said that Reid likes UDFAs because for their entire career, they never take their roster spot for granted. They always feel like they could be cut at any time, and so he likes that hunger that's in him. Spots where they could get somebody, Sam, onto the roster, spots where maybe they're not any better. I mean, let's be honest. Nico Remigio, and I know Jalen Rose is a 4th-round pick, but we saw nothing from him. There are 2 wide receiver spots if they would keep 6 that I think a UDFA has a chance to edge his way in. I think it's going to be really tough for an offensive lineman, but I do think 3rd tackle is a spot, as
that's why I think Benson's interesting, right? Is because he could play if he could play inside or tackle, and you've got versatility, man, you might be able to keep one fewer guy there at that position if you feel like he can be a backup for multiple spots. And look, I mean, the 3 of us understand this, but this is all way too early projection. But this is the kind of math that isn't too early to start thinking about what do you want a guy to be, and having somebody who can play 4 positions or 3 positions on the offensive line. That's the ideal setup.
Yeah, I think so. Anywhere along the defense where you could see a UDFA linebacker again?
Linebacker, absolutely. And I don't think secondary would be out of the question.
I don't think safety's got to be
safety.
Conversation.
Yeah. And sure. the Iowa kid I know was sought after as well as far as the UDFAs. I think people are surprised he didn't get actually drafted.
Yeah. So I think there are a couple of spots that could be in play for these kids. All right. We want to get into Emmett Johnson and what his role is going to be, what Andy Reid had to say about him. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Concrete season is in full swing and asphalt paving is revving up. So right now is the time to get your property on the schedule with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Whether you need new concrete work, a parking lot repaved, crack filling, seal coating, or full asphalt installation, their experienced crews handle it all right here in Kansas City. Don't wait until the rush hits. Call today for a free bid and secure your spot before the calendar fills up. Get the process started right now at GannAsphalt.com. That's GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine-in, carry-out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. All right, let's talk a little bit about Emmett Johnson. I mean, I think this is one of the big names that people are expecting something from. What is going to be the best role for Emmett Johnson? And can we take anything, Sam, from Andy Reid saying he can, quote, do everything?
Yeah, so even though it is a passing camp, he was involved in camp a lot, and I think it's intentional to see what he can do. To me, the ideal role that he fills on your roster is he can catch out of the backfield. And when you go back and look at the Chiefs offense and correlate what their backfield gives them in the receiving game versus where they are as an offense in whole, there is a correlation there. The last 2 years, they have ranked 19th or worse in yards generated from routes out of the backfield. Before that, in the last 2 years, we know where they were offensively. In 2023, they were 6th. In 2022, they were 3rd. In 2021, they were 2nd. Like, this used to be a significant part of their offense, and it's just disappeared the last 2 years because they haven't had the personnel for it. And so, to me, ideally, that's what you can make out of him over this summer and into camp. And he can catch the ball. The question with him is going to be, can he pass protect? And to me, I heard a guy at the podium that seemed up for whatever role he can fill on a roster. He talked about playing special teams and running down on kickoffs or something. I would say your eagerness needs to be channeled into being a great pass protector so that we can put you on the field on third downs, because that's not a role that Kenneth Walker played for the Seahawks either.
Last year, Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks, Jeff, 20 catches on 24 targets, and he carried the ball 184 to Kenneth Walker's 221. If Emmett Johnson's called upon to carry that kind of workload, for it to be that kind of split, I don't think he will be. But if he were called upon for that kind of workload, can he handle that?
Well, he led the Big Ten in rushing, so he's used to being a high-volume ball carrier. But I do think he's a big part of whatever puzzle they're trying to put together offensively here, because this feels like, even though they pay Kenneth Walker a lot of money to come in here as a free agent, that this has to be an effective two-back operation where both guys have to fill significant roles. And as Sam said, Kenneth Walker, for as good as he looked in the postseason, he was not a huge part of their offense when it came to throwing the football. And so that is in question. I do feel like there's certainly a role for him as a third down back, but I like him a lot. I think when you lead the Big Ten in rushing, this is a lot about who you are. He caught 46 balls, so that speaks to his hands. And I think Sam is right. I mean, the screen game used to be Andy Reid's bread and butter, or at least a big part of his offense, and that's vanished. But just they have not found a way to make up for what Jerick McKinnon gave them. You look around the NFL, and every team's got two backs who can do damage. Not what they had last year, where you had an older short yardage guy and a guy who ran into brick walls. It's like both these guys need to be players. I don't know where DeMarcado or Brashard Smith fits in, but these two guys are going to be essential to what the Chiefs want to be offensively.
Sam, if you're going to run two tight ends, if you're going to be more physical in the running game, and you can get the defense to put bigger people on the field, then you can take the running back and you can flex them out at the wide receiver position. We see Christian McCaffrey do it. That's something that can be done within an offense that we haven't seen the Chiefs do. I don't know that Kenneth Walker's that guy, but could that be the role? Could that be something where they can give some different looks with Emmett Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, yes. I will say, just vaguely speaking or generally speaking, I'll say I don't like it when running backs are lining up at wide receivers. I mean, I remember when the Lions took Jahmyr Gibbs and there was this talk of, he can play wide receiver. He plays running back, and that's basically the only position he plays for the Lions. Like, however good he might be out of the backfield as a receiver, there's no reason for him to be one of your three best receivers on the field. And so I know you're talking about motioning him out.
I'm talking about looks, but if you can bring a linebacker and have him out there and he's got to cover. I mean, if you can get off the line of scrimmage and you get them in a man situation and you can bring the linebacker. I mean, that's part of what Christian McCaffrey brings to the 49ers is that he will go out and line up in that slot position and he's a threat. And you have to cover him. If nothing else, it opens up parts of the field if you have to respect him for that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think in theory it could work, but just like on rare occasion, I think would that actually be a valuable play?
Could he do it?
I don't know if he could do that at the. I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world, so you'd be giving up size in that matchup, and it's not like he's a 4-4 guy either. I mean, I do think he's got the hands to play out of the backfield as a receiver.
I mean, the real question, I think, Jeff, I think we all have seen his running skills and that he catches the football. If it's, from the running back position in traditional running back, wheel routes, catching it in the flat, screen game, he does a nice job there. The real test for him is going to come when they put the pads on and can he pick up a blitz, right?
Yeah.
Well, Andy Reid said he can do everything, right?
Well, that's the part that's going to question.
Just everything right now in this rookie minicamp. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big test. But look, you hope he can do it. I don't think it's got to be he can't be on the field and be an integral part of the offense if it takes him a while to learn how to do it. But I think that they believe in him. I think that he's got an opportunity here. I was thinking, and Sam was talking about what you were talking about as far as backs who can do that. I think about the third back in the Bills offense, and I think it's Tyler Johnson. I always want to say it's Duke Johnson, but I think it's Tyler. Is it Tyler Johnson? He's number 26, but he's a pretty good receiver. And I saw them play the Rams a couple of years ago, and he had probably 60, 70 yards on catches, just blowing past guys. Now, I don't know if Emmett Johnson, if you're going to line somebody out there, they got to be able to run routes. They just can't go out there and have good hands. You got to be able to have some kind of sophistication in what you're doing. And that's the big question about Emmett Johnson. But I'm with Sam on this. I think that his biggest value will be as a runner who can probably create some things in the pass game off more traditional routes you expect backs to run.
By the way, Ty Johnson is who you're thinking of,
Ty
26. He and Ray Davis are the two backups to James Cook. I do think there's a question about carrying the workload too, because I think there might be more of a workload than people realize given to the rest of the running backs. And Jeff, you talked about Monangai with the Bears, had 700 yards rushing last year. Eric Bieniemy was the running backs coach there. I mean, I think if they, I don't think they're going to run the ball for 2,500 yards. I mean, I'd love to see 2,000. They better be over 2,000. I'd like to see 2,200 plus. And that's obviously not all going to come from Kenneth Walker. I mean, he's never had that kind of workload. And I don't think you want him to have that kind of workload. So I think there's going to be something there for Emmett Johnson. You got to see Garrett Nussmeier, Sam, 3 quarterbacks. Is he making a case for needing to keep him, that you're not going to get him to the practice squad? And I think most people would agree that he's probably not going to get there. But if he goes out and plays like crap in preseason, maybe you could. I don't know. You'd want to at that point. But the 3 quarterbacks, we see anything out of Nussmeier?
Yeah, he's clearly better than what they usually have at this camp. I mean, he stands out in that way. It's actually more enjoyable to watch camp when the quarterback can actually make some throws compared to, just some lower level, clearly UDFA guys. I think his best path to the
roster. Chris Oladokun taking strays out of nowhere, huh?
I think his best path to the roster is the fact that other positions are not deep on this roster. And so can they keep 3 quarterbacks? Yes, because last year they kept 8 wide receivers. And I think that you'll find spots in this roster when we go through it at the onset of training camp and then again at the conclusion of training camp that we will be putting guys on the roster that we think in most years might get cut. And that might only be 2 or 3 guys, but that's why I think they'll be able to keep a third quarterback if he actually plays well.
Jeff, that's the part to me that when it's the roster, it's a numbers game, and then they keep 8 wideouts, of which 4 of them are no good. And, or they keep, an offensive lineman that they refuse to play, or they keep a defensive back that never gets on the field. I mean, there is no earthly reason. If you have 3 quarterbacks that can play, spare me. I mean, there's no excuse for not keeping all 3 quarterbacks if they're all 3 good.
Well, that's the key question, right? I think it's if they're all 3 good and you have a plan for maximizing them. So we've had this conversation before about Nussmeier's value. And I agree, if he's talented enough to be a cheap option as a backup, then that's a great deal for you. But a guy like this, you have to develop him still. And so I don't think it's as simple as, he could be a chip and they could move him 3-4 years down the road. How many teams did that happen with a quarterback of Patrick Mahomes' caliber? There's been a number of talented or big name or guys you've heard of who've been good college players who sat behind Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or whoever and never did anything for anybody else. But I hope that they have an idea of how they want to evaluate him and help him develop as a player, because it didn't happen with Chris Oladokun, and he's not going to get a lot of opportunities to do that. And so we'll see where it goes. But look, when he was at LSU a couple of years ago, he was a talented guy. And he probably would have been a second, at least a day 2 pick. So there's talent there, but I just don't see his way of getting on the field and making a difference. So to be the third quarterback on this team is not really a great situation.
Yeah, but I think the value in the third quarterback is not this year. I mean, I think it's Justin Fields is the number 2 quarterback this year. The value in keeping him this year is I think if Justin Fields does anything in preseason, and I think there's a chance that he will, and God forbid he get into a real game and do something, he's gone. You're not going to have Justin Fields at $3 million. And to your point, Jeff, about how important those UDFAs are, how important the day 2 and day 3, if they can have a $1 million backup quarterback, as opposed to having to, pay Gardner Minshew $8, to keep him away from the Cardinals. I mean, look, Justin Fields is only going to count 3 for them, but it's a $10 million deal. The Jets are paying $7 million of it, right? So even he is not a cheap option. So, I mean, I think the reason you would keep him, I don't know whether it's about playing him and developing as much as it's just, theoretically you learn something in those meetings. That's what they tell us, right? I mean, so being around the team for a year, if you can have an apprenticeship year and be behind both these quarterbacks, and then, if there's something there, you've at least got a cheap option for 27 at backup quarterback. That's the reason you keep him in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. But I will say this does happen. Guys do get flipped. I mean, you mentioned playing behind Tom Brady. They had Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo in pretty short order. They were able to flip both of those guys. I do agree with your larger point that that's not the reason you keep him, is because you envision getting a 3rd round pick 3 years from now. I think it is because he could potentially be a really cheap option as a backup. And I mean, the other elephant in the room here is we don't know that Patrick Mahomes is playing week 1. We think he is. We don't know that he's going to play week 1, in which case he might be your number 2 quarterback in the opening week of the season.
And that's where I'm going with it. Garoppolo was a 2nd round pick, and he was drafted because they were looking to replace Tom Brady. So it's a little different.
Jacoby Brissett,
I think Brissett was a 4th rounder, wasn't he?
I think maybe even 3rd.
Yeah. Someone in our Chad's bringing up the fact that they had Matt Castle as well, who we should have gotten because the Chiefs traded for him. Yeah. He was 7th rounder.
Yeah, and the whole point is those guys played because someone got hurt.
Jacoby Brissett, 3rd rounder, 91 overall in 16. So yeah, I mean, listen, if you can find a quarterback who can play, I mean, how much will you love them if they win that one game that they got to play, right? And that's the game that gets you over the top. I mean, I think they will keep 3. I don't think you make this move.
Oh, I think they will. I think they will. I agree with that. They will keep 3.
And my great overall point is just that there are, it's not quite as egregious as when baseball teams talk about, well, we'd have to move somebody from our 40-man roster. Here's 5 names. Go ahead. Right? Like the baseball GMs and their obsession with not letting somebody go off the 40-man roster definitely does trump this situation, but this can see that down the road in the sense acting like, oh, who would we cut? Who could we possibly cut?
Well, it was 3 years ago that when we'd have the conversations about projecting the 53-man roster, it was hard to cut certain guys. Last year, I remember saying in the middle of training camp on this show, they're going to keep some guys that I don't think would get picked up by other teams if they cut them. I don't think they'd be part of the waiver. I think they'd eventually get picked up, but I don't think they'd be waiver claim guys. And I think the Chiefs roster depth-wise, considering what they lost a year ago from that team, a team that went 6-11, not a team that won a Super Bowl, I think that they're going to be in a similar spot to where I don't think it's going to be hard for us to project them to pick 3 quarterbacks. I don't think we're going to be saying, man, if I got to keep Garrett Nussmeier and therefore I got to get rid of this guy and this guy and this guy, and now I'm only keeping 7 wide receivers going into the end of the year.
Well, I think it's more like Wanya Morris gets to stick around instead of finding somebody else to be
done.
Right.
Done.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like, oh, George Karlaftis or Nussmeier. What are we doing here? That's not what the decision will end up being. I can guarantee you that. They'll be able to make it and make it with ease. All right, we still want to talk about Patrick Mahomes participating in the OTAs. Some reports out there that might not be 100% accurate. We'll talk about that after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Gann Asphalt and Concrete is looking to grow their team. If you have heavy construction foreman experience with heavy equipment, asphalt or concrete labor, or just want to learn a new trade, contact Gann Asphalt and Concrete to join their team today. Top of the market pay, company provided insurance, and paid time off and holiday pay are just a few of the great reasons to join Gann's expanding team. Learn more about this great opportunity with Gann at GannAsphalt.com/careers. That's GannAsphalt.com/careers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. All right, there's some reports out there, Sam, that have Andy Reid stating that Patrick Mahomes is a full go for OTAs. That is not entirely accurate based upon what you heard, what Jeff and I read in the quotes from Andy Reid's press conference. What do you think is the reality, and how did it become this on some reports?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the interpretation of the reports than maybe the exact words of them. But I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is going to do everything at OTAs. I don't think he should be doing everything at OTAs. And the third phase is, I mean, we can get back out there and do some team stuff. And I think what's most likely is he's going to be participating in the drills that do not have a defense and do not have a pass rush, and probably not participating in the ones that are like full 11 on 11 and full 7 on 7 stuff. And so that's kind of where I guess he could do some 7 stuff, but that's kind of where I am on it. And knowing that, look, I mean, the next time the Chiefs convene is like almost full 4 weeks away. So why not wait until you have more information? But I just don't think it'd be wise to be putting him out there and full team drills.
Do you see any chance that he's doing anything more than maybe standing in place with no one around him and no rush and throwing the ball to some receivers? Jeff?
No. And look, I mean, I think we all know how Andy talks about injuries and guys being at practice. It's always he's out there. So he was out there doing some stuff. I expect that kind of lingo to be said as opposed to specifics and hardcore evidence of him doing something. This does not need to be a race or a competition or any kind of attempt to prove how tough Patrick Mahomes is, how resilient he is, how competitive he is, how hard he works. Those have all been laid to rest. And so the only thing that matters is that when he steps on the field again for this team is that he's as healthy as can be, and he's at no risk of hurting himself this coming season. And so if that happens week 2, week 3, then they should be okay with that. But it does feel like there's always this attempt to try to show this, man, Patrick's doing so much. Like, does anybody think he's not doing the most he can?
That's a great point.
You know, it's just like, get tired of hearing it.
That's a great point on this. There's nothing left for this guy to prove. Like, we know he's tough. We saw the Netflix quarterback documentary where he's refusing to go get x-rays when Andy Reid's like, you've got to get the x-rays because you can't play if your leg is broken. And he's pissed as we've seen him on the sideline, because he doesn't even want to get the x-rays because he's worried if this is broken, I can't go back in the game. We know that Andy Reid said when he dislocated his kneecap in Denver that once they figured out that it wasn't something more serious than that, even though that is a serious injury, that he wanted to go back in that game that was already a blowout. Like, they didn't need him in that game. So I just think that's a great point, Jeff, that this guy doesn't have anything left to prove with his toughness, to where the words about how quickly he's doing, how much he's attacking rehab. The only way that'd be newsworthy is if that isn't what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree. And how much does, throwing to these receivers at this time matter? I mean, they've made a big deal out of it for years. And when they're winning, okay, yeah, that was a big part of it. But, they had throwing camp last year and they sucked. So how much does that actually mean, Sam?
Well, it's the only benefit of not acquiring more receivers is there's not a lot of new faces to get to know in that room. You do have Cyrus Allen, the 5th round pick. He actually, Patrick Mahomes, has never completed a pass to Jalen Royals in a game, but he did have full offseason with them last year.
And I think there's a decent chance. Sorry to interrupt you, Sam. I think there's a decent chance he never will.
I'm not as down on Jalen Royals as you are. I like. You've got his roster spot in jeopardy, it sounds like.
I've got a what?
You've got his roster spot, like, really up for grabs.
It's not, but it should be.
But is that his fault, though, or is it their lack of a plan for him to develop him?
I don't know. I mean, like, when a guy falls like that, it's either, A.J. Brown, medicals and red flags. He ends up being healthy and he stays on the straight and narrow long enough to, like, okay, this guy's talented, or no, everybody else saw the problems and you missed it. I mean, it's one, like, I don't think anybody in his situation plays to their draft spot, right? Either the guy like George Pickens was either going to suck because he was going to implode, or you were going to be able to keep him on the field and he was going to play like a first rounder. Same thing with A.J. Brown, like all the question marks that are there. And this is a diet version of those guys because we're talking about a guy that's projected to go 2nd round that they ended up getting in the 4th. But so far, the fact that he couldn't get anywhere near the field, I mean, says that, like, other people figured out that this guy doesn't have it. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not in the rooms. I just like, they were starved for wide receiver play and he couldn't get anywhere near the field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's some teams that do a good job of getting young guys on the field and some teams that don't. I think the Chiefs are one of those teams that it's harder to come in, and unless you're just in a situation where Rashee Rice was in and there's nobody else we're going to trust the football to. I mean, Denver Broncos had like 4 or 5 guys out there who were either rookies or first-year players last year who were contributing.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, but I'm saying that to me is like, I just think that this offense that they run, they've asked so much of these receivers, and sometimes they don't give guys opportunities. He should have been playing the last 3 games. I don't know why he wasn't out there, but it shouldn't have been. Well, he doesn't know the offense. What do you have to lose?
He was run blocking on Christmas night.
That's my point. He still couldn't get anything done. Now, listen, quarterback play matters.
That helps.
And he wasn't getting much quarterback play. That's true as well. I just, for me, they have these types, and they go and they fall in love with these types, and they give $8 million a year to Marquez Valdes-Scantling because they think they need a vertical threat, and they've decided he's it because they take a look at the highlight reel and not all the. I mean, as soon as he came down here, it's the same thing. Like when the Packers signed McCole Hardman, like, oh, what do we get? Is he a starter? I went on in Green Bay or Milwaukee or wherever it was, and I'm like, not much. Really? Like, I mean, and I laid it out what he is. Well, that was the same response I got. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was not much. There's a couple of, but the Chiefs gave him $8 million a year on a three-year deal. And Jalen Royals to me is
11, right?
Or was it $7 million? Whatever it was.
No, 11. I think it was like a 3 for 33, wasn't it?
Oh, God. Makes me feel even worse.
Yeah.
But I feel like Jalen Royals felt to me like, well, Rashee Rice is going to be down. We need a Rashee Rice-like guy. And he fits that mold.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Green Bay, the Packers are a team that also does a good job with the young receivers. They've had 4 or 5 guys, Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed. All these guys have played over there early.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not ready to say he's a complete nothing. I mean, I think the first year evidence is that he's not going to turn into a number 1 or 2 option, but I'm not ready to say he can't contribute.
Here's one of the things I'll give him. They fired the wide receiver coach. I mean, that they clearly have said, here's where an issue is. And they fired the offensive coordinator. And so there is reason. I think everybody in offense is going to get a new shot at it. So I think those are all valid points that you're making. Speaking of that, coaching staff. What do the changes mean here, Jeff, that, now we've got a new wide receiver coach. Now there's a new running back coach. There's a new offensive coordinator. How big a difference is that going to make?
I think it makes a difference as far as voices in the room. I think it makes a big difference as far as you just talked about types, like what kind of players these guys like to have and work with. And I think Andy Reid, at least I give him credit for understanding, maybe I need to have some different people talking to me about how this offense should look and where I go, and that if he's not going to go full on, go out and find the guy he found with the pistol offense years ago and Alex Smith was here and steal some of those ideas. I think he's more open to listening to things, which is a good sign, because there are a lot of really good offensive ideas out there, a lot of really interesting things happening as far as creativity and innovation. And I do think that he has been, and he's earned the right to be a little bit closed-minded about RPOs and about Patrick can do it all and about speed. And so I like the idea of people coming in who are known for being, I don't know DeMarco Murray's reputation, but I know O'Shea and obviously Eric Bieniemy are known for being tough coaches and getting the most out of guys and being sticklers on technique. So that's it should be well appreciated around the Chiefs.
What did you see from the coaching staff, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff said it with his description of O'Shea, and we already know the description of Eric Bieniemy. Like, they both fit this mold of being tough coaches, and I think the Chiefs need more tough coaches based on the way that last year's environment was. I can tell you that practice just was a completely different feel out there because Eric Bieniemy's voice can be heard from across every field at all times, and ChadO'Shea is much more that mold than he is the mold of their last wide receivers coach, Connor Embry. And it's a difference when every aspect of every drill, you are hearing the wide receiver coach give feedback in real time on everything. This guy didn't do this drill or this route exactly how he wanted. Everyone on the field is hearing it, and it doesn't slow up them doing it. The drill continues, but he's shouting, you got to show your hands earlier. I mean, it's just, it's tons of technique stuff that, to be frank, I mean, I guess I was going to say, I'm sure. I know that it's different inside the room than it is out on the field, but if it wasn't, then I heard more from ChadO'Shea in rookie minicamp than I'd heard from the wide receiver coach in 3 years on the field. I don't know what goes on in those meeting rooms, but on the field, I heard more from him in 2 rookie minicamp practices than I had heard from Embry. And
did you hear him say, "Hey, Xavier, stay in bounds when you catch the ball"? Did you hear one of those?
Xavier's not out there. But
hands available.
Look, I'm just practicing saying that. I'm not saying you got to be out there. Just get used to saying that.
You're actually bringing up one of my. This is related to this topic. One of my favorite practice moments at the tail end of training camp one year was when Demarcus Robinson catches a pass, and he's got to tap his toes to get in bounds. It's actually a very good catch. Taps his toes to get in bounds. And because of the previous year that he'd had with Demarcus Robinson, where his first step was always backwards, Eric Bieniemy screams, "Get upfield!" And it's like, well, I had to catch the ball. But that was his point, is like, no, I'm telling you, every time you catch the ball, first thing in your mind needs to be get upfield. And that's the type of, you phrase this question, Soren, is what does this matter? I can just tell you it matters at practice. There is a different feel at practice. How much it's going to matter into a game and how you can equate this to wins and losses, I don't know. That part remains to be seen.
There's a thing, like if you are ever around dogs or animals, and you're timid to them, they will become aggressive towards you. I know, like training a dog, you have to be definitive, and the command has to be authoritative and everything. I think that's just a basic animalistic instinct that is there for all people, anyone who's trying to be taught something, no matter where you sit in the animal kingdom, right? And I think there is something to be said. When Andy Reid talks, he speaks from confidence, and he speaks with a resume that people know, right? And so, you can get by. I mean, you have to be a first-year coach at some point. Like, watching DeMarco Murray is going to be interesting, because I think he might be a very good running backs coach, but he doesn't have a great record as a running backs coach. He's been in college. but is he authoritative? O'Shea and Eric Bieniemy have a resume that say, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And then they project themselves that they know what they're talking about. Connor Emery never did. And he may go on to a fine coaching career, but it literally looked like a guy who was terrified to stand at the podium in front of the handful of media that Kansas City presents the Chiefs. And I think is picked up on in that room. And so I'm with you. I think it's a great sign. I think Bieniemy will project confidence and they'll react well.
Well, I would add to that too and say that I think there's two ways you create a culture and you motivate players. Either your players set it or your coaches set it. And I think for a long time, they've relied on the players setting it here. And that's been Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones and Tyrann Mathieu and all these guys. And I think the coaches got comfortable with that. And I think now it's flipping what Sam's saying more to coaches are setting the bar again. And if I remember going to the Lions when they were trying to get things turned around and you would see, not just Dan Campbell, but Aaron Glenn or Deuce Staley, whoever was there. It was they created the atmosphere. And when you're coming up, when you're a losing team, you got to have the coaches doing that because the players don't get it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm jotting down some notes for future topic. I think you bring up an excellent point that we could spend a lot more time talking about. So we'll do that on a future episode of the Red, Gold, and Bold. Remember, we're always brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. If you're looking to be employed by one of the best companies in Kansas City, Gann Asphalt is hiring. Looking for concrete paving foremen, operators, laborers. If you're looking for a trusted company who offers top-of-the-market pay, company-provided insurance, PTO, and many more benefits, GannAsphalt.com/careers. One contractor, all things parking lot, and our friends at Italian Delight. Stop on by 8145 State Ave. That's just a few miles east of the Speedway on State Avenue. Go see Renee. He's the guy on crutches. Softball injury has him down, so go cheer him up. He is, of course, his family, the ones who brought true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. Strombolis, calzones, sausage rolls. Ask about their lunches starting at under $10. Find them online at ItalianDelightKS.com. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.